Well, yeah, I'm first. Right?
Okay.
Okay, so it's that. I'll turn it to you when you do your thing.
Okay.
Hello. We'll be starting the broadcast momentarily. So just to let everyone know that's on here now, we're, as the voice maybe you've heard said, that we're in listen only mode. And if you want to post any questions for Jami, there's a question box that you can write your questions in, and that's how we'll communicate. There isn't a webcam availability, so just to let you know in case you're wondering. But yeah, we'll start pretty soon, closer to the 7 o'clock hour. So, and Jami, like I said, I'm gonna turn my camera off after I introduce you, and then I'll make it to where they can just see you.
I'm ready.
Okay. So I put my Jack Kerouac picture over here.
Oh, good. Good. I'll move over for Jack.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
I'm always backwards on this thing. So it's like,
Oh, I know it's.
yeah, I'm like, I'm really pointing over there when it's over here. So.
Oh, that's right.
You're our teacher in this medium
Oh, good. Yeah.
stuff. So thank you.
You should write
Sure.
it off.
Yeah, write it off.
You should write it off.
Okay. Oh. Okay. Yeah, we're getting some more people here, so.
It's like when Dirk does his, he can read.
Yeah.
Oh, Jami, oh, so and so, oh, so and so. Will I be able to see the questions and the people or no?
I think you might be able to see the attendees. I'm not sure about the questions.
That's
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, because, yeah.
And that's what Dirk does. He says, oh, she wrote, he wrote, he wrote.
Yeah. Do you have a little panel there that you can see?
A little what?
It's like a little panel, like a little control
Yeah.
panel on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything that's listed there, if you
Okay.
just hit the down arrow, you can see. Can you see the questions?
Not yet. Let me here down.
Does it say questions?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure what you could see on your end.
Says webcam questions chat.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, the chat is just between us. Like the people, if they want to post their questions, they have to do it in the question box. But yeah.
Okay.
But we're getting some more people here.
I'm not even gonna punch
Yeah, I
anything.
wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Yeah. We'll wait for just a little while and see who comes on here.
Lights, camera.
Yeah. I do have a clapboard too. I can do that.
Oh, you do? Oh, that'd be so funny.
It's not real, but it's like the little thing. Yeah.
I think I got one for my brother once, and it's hysterical.
Yeah. I got it like at a shop they sold movies because I love film. I'm like a film nerd. So I have, yeah.
What's your first?
My favorite. Stanley Kubrick's my favorite filmmaker.
Oh.
Yeah. And the like the French New Wave and yeah. I studied it in school. I film history. And so I'm a film geek. I get once I start talking about film, I'm like, oh.
Where did you learn that? Where'd you go to school?
I went to the University of Pittsburgh here, just in Pittsburgh. And then, yeah, but I studied art history and film history.
And now you're a librarian.
Yeah.
My sister has a best buddy friend that's a librarian, and wow, you guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
You have a good friend.
Oh, yeah,
Who was a
Harriet.
librarian at University of California at Berkeley.
Yeah, I
She's
forgot.
a little,
Oh,
she's
wow.
just
Berkeley, you know.
Berkeley, you know. She's retired.
Wow.
So
That's
she,
the place. Yeah, I love Berkeley.
she lives in a commune here in Santa Cruz now.
And she's
Really?
older
Yeah.
than us.
And she's, yeah, older than us. And the communes aren't the same now. It's like, you pay rent for like a bedroom, living room and bathroom, and you have shared kitchen, shared yard, shared, and that's
Yeah.
a so-called commune. Plus you have to sign up for chores, you know, and that sort of thing. So
Yes.
Great.
anyway,
Yeah, we should write. Oh, Harriet would love to have seen this.
yes.
I didn't invite her.
Well, it'll be on.
Well, it's recorded, so I'm not sure. I know that you should be able to see it. I'm not sure how much you can, you know,
Once recorded.
distribute. But yeah, like, but if she could come and watch it or something, I'm not sure if she could send it to her, but it's recorded, so.
Good.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, so let's see.
Want some wine?
All right, we'll wait just another minute or two.
Sure. Way over there. Oh, yeah. You don't know. Could pour it in your can? No. That took, okay. See, and this is our office.
Okay.
We have all the books and we have, oh, well, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna. Well,
Other
that's
stuff.
you
okay.
and I'll talk later. This is fine. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, we have so much that, okay.
Okay. Well, let's see. I guess. Yeah, we'll just wait one more minute. It's almost 7 o'clock. So
So are you married?
no, I'm single.
Oh, I have the window open.
Uh-oh.
Occasional motorcycle.
Okay.
Should I shut the window?
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, we want this to be perfect,
Yeah.
except for all those windows.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, we're on the second floor. And it's,
Oh, okay. Okay. Let's see.
ooh, I like that Jack. Yeah. Okay. I'm a ham.
I know.
That's gross.
I can see that. Yeah.
Brought up in the theater, you know.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
Serious.
so we can get started.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So, hi, welcome to our presentation with Jami Cassady. My name is Larissa Duncan. I'm a reference librarian here at the library. And as you may know, this week is Banned Books Week. And so we received a grant from the Freedom to Read Foundation that allowed us to have a week of different events to celebrate banned books. And our first presentation this evening is with Jami Cassady. And we are very excited to have her with us this evening. She is going to give a presentation about her father, Neil Cassady, which will give an overview of who he was, his life, and share some memorabilia with us. And also, if you have any questions for Jami, you can type them in the question box. And at the end of the presentation, we'll read some of those questions. So with that, I will hand it over to Jami Cassady. Thank you, Jami, for being with us.
Thank you, Larissa, for inviting me.
Sure.
Hello. Hello. This is my first virtual presentation, even though my husband and I have been presenting the myth and the legacy of my father for 20 some odd years. So I'm really thankful that Larissa can guide me through this. Yes, I'll do a quickie and then you. Okay, Neil Cassady was my father. He was married to Carolyn Cassady, and she had 3 children. Older sister Kathy, me in the middle, and younger son John Allen, who was named after Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg, because those other famous people were always at our house, eating dinner, you know, playing with the kids, taking us for ice cream. And Dad worked on the railroad, Southern Pacific. He worked there for 10 years, never missed a day. So the first question people ask me is, boy, that must have been amazing growing up with Neil Cassady as your father. Well, he was my dad. He went to work, he came home, we ate dinner, he drove me to ballet classes. I actually did not know anything about his persona, life, whatever, until I was a teenager, 1964, 65. So I have a lot of stories, of course, and I would love to answer any of your questions. But my husband, Randy, we've been married 45 years, he has a nice introduction to why the counterculture, the beatniks, and the hippies became what they are. And there's Randy. Hi, Randy.
Hi. It's exciting. Like she said, this is the first time we've done this. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of the Beat generation, who those guys were, and so on. It all starts, I think it originally starts for Kerouac in the school year 38 through 39. He was was going to Horace Mann Prep School because he had to make up some classes. It was there that he and his roommate, Seymour Weiss, would go down and listen to jazz, and which was a great influence on Kerouac. Kerouac was much into music even then, but mainly into the swing bands of the time, Tommy Dorsey's and that sort of thing. So he would go down to Minton's and hear Lester Young, Dizzy Gillespie, John Coltrane, Charlie Parker. All these guys were there playing for the door. And that's where bebop was kind of invented. So that's a very important part of this history. Because Jack framed his writing on jazz rhythms. Allen Ginsberg says that Jack called it spontaneous bop prosody, whatever that means. Bop prosody. So anyway, in about 1940, Jack had met a guy named Lucien Carr, and they hung out together. And they're both going to Columbia. And they went to Columbia in 1940, and they didn't like it, so they quit. Both of them quit going to Columbia and signed up for the Merchant Marines and spent a year in the Merchant Marines. Then they came back, and they ended up back in Columbia, going back to Columbia, and it was there that they met Joan Vollmer and Edie Parker, who was Kerouac's first wife. Joan Vollmer's live-in husband at the time was Bill Burroughs. So that started. They'd go to Joan Vollmer's apartment at Columbia, and that was all going on. About a year later, Ginsberg showed up. Pretty soon, Hal Chase showed up. Pretty soon, all these people showed up and talking. And Hal Chase, we bring him up. Not too many people know about him. We've just recently have found out more about him. He is actually a California guy, lived down by San Luis Obispo. And yeah, and anyway, yeah. Originally, Hal Chase was from Denver, and he knew Neil, and he would brag about Neil, who this great guy had all these stories, could pick up women like nothing, drove a car like crazy, all this. And so they wanted to meet him. So they called him, and Neil showed up, and he was in New York, and he was, as they all said, as he had said, he was this crazy guy who just could do so much. Eventually Neil went back to Denver, and there he met Carolyn, Jami's mom, she was getting a master's in theater arts. And one of her old boyfriends wanted to introduce her to Neil, which was a really bad idea. And she did, and they dated and all that. And then eventually Jack and Alan came out, and they all met her. And she wanted to be in theater and stuff, so she tried to get a job in Hollywood, and it was going to work. And so she went out there, but no, there was no job. So at that very time, she was pregnant with Jami's sister Kathy, and so she went out to San Francisco, where her sister lived,
To
take care of the baby. And Neil couldn't handle it, so he took off. He came out to California, and basically Alan and Jack followed him. And that's pretty much, so Carolyn always claimed that she brought the Beats to San Francisco, and she's pretty much right. They didn't really come, though. There were people here, Kenneth Rexroth and
Philip Whalen.
Whalen,
Oh my gosh.
Patch, and they were here. So it wasn't completely all the Beats.
How about
But what?
The American Dream, the 50s?
Oh, you want to hear? Okay. The most important thing, right, that we have to discuss here is the why these people did what they did. You know, after World War II, the government gave all citizens, all the people that fought in the war, they gave them a free college education, a low interest loan on a house, and a whole bunch of other stuff, health care and that. And what had happened then is, when those people got it, the big businesses built all the houses the same. And so you got this conformity going on. And everybody was proud of winning the war. And so they all took the money and the college education, my parents included, and
Not mine.
Lived all in the same ticky-tack little houses. But these guys, Jack and Alan and Neil and Hal Chase and Lucien Carr and all those guys said, I don't want to be like those guys. I'm not those guys. I don't want to do it. So they rebelled against it. And it was constant rebellion against that form. And also they felt sorry for the guys that didn't have jobs. So the people that were down and out, the people that didn't have anything, they felt that they should have part of this too, even though maybe they didn't go to war. Why are you sacrificing, you know? So they complained about that all the time. So anyway, that came up. On the Road was written in 1948. But it wasn't published till 1957. Allen Ginsberg Hal was 1955, and it went on. And then we go forward to the 60s, and of course you have to know that in 1958, Neil Cassady got arrested for 2 joints of marijuana, was sentenced to San Quentin prison, 5 to life for each event. So he was sentenced to San Quentin, spent 2 years there, got out on good behavior, came back. And at that time, Carolyn said, okay, you go out and play with your friends and let's get a divorce. So they did. it bothered Neil a lot, and he had nowhere to go. So we found out that he was like dealing marijuana and that stuff to survive. And Ken Kesey got a hold of him. Kesey had this great idea to celebrate the joys of LSD. And so he got all his friends together. They got on a bus. He got the driver of Kerouac's car, Neil Cassady, to drive the bus. And they took out across the United States and celebrating the joys of LSD, acid tests, lots of acid tests. So.
Are you done? No.
Oh, I was just going to get right to the end.
Okay, go.
Where in 1968, January, Neil was to make a movie. He was asked to make a movie with the pranksters down in Mexico. And so he went down there. And the story is that at a wedding party, they all got really drunk, and he took a lot of downers and secondals, and he told them all at the party that he had to leave and go to the town next door and pick up his suitcase that he had left at the train station. So he was going to walk down the tracks. So he walked down the tracks, and his body was so used up and abused. And it was winter there, and you have to know that in San Miguel Allende, which is where he was, it's on the same plateau as Mexico City. So in February, it's cold. It's very cold. Excuse me. And he collapsed. Now, there's many different stories about this, how it goes, but basically, a bunch of locals found him, threw him in a pickup truck, took him to the hospital. And he was in a coma for a day, and they tried to keep him alive, but he passed away. And that's basically it.
All right. Okay, honey.
Okay.
Excellent. Now, I have nothing else to say because he just told the whole story. No, I'm kidding. Well, I'm just going to start talking to, I have an idea. Larissa said that some of you might not know who Neil Cassady was. And what Randy and I have been trying to do for over 40 years is celebrate the man, the myth, and the legend. Meaning, there's so many myth stories out there that are just like really cool, but there's also many, many stories that are true. Okay, well,
He's driving.
you're right. I was going to say that. He grew up in the horrible slums of Denver he was born in 26. His mother died when he was 10, and he was living with his alcoholic father, who was supposed to be a barber, but he couldn't hold a job. And if you please, please, please read Dad's book, The First Third, it's just heartbreaking. Dad wrote about the first third of his life when he was young and that, and it just makes me cry every time I think about it. So what he did was he used his amazing brain, photographic memory, intelligence up the wazoo. I don't know how much it was, but he would race to the library. And he read every book in the Denver library, they say, when he was living there. With the photographic memory, well, you can imagine he'd go talking to somebody, even us kids, when we were with him all day. Just, his mind was just sparking, and always very coherent, unless he was really out of it. But anyway, so he had a very, very, very hard childhood, but I believe he overcame it by being smart and caring. He was a pacifist. You could not do anything around him. When he was in San Quentin, he actually broke up fights with big, huge, men that were mad at each other, and he was only 5'11", right?
Yeah,
He wasn't big, but his gift of gab, his intelligence and his humanity and his love always diffused the fight. I mean, to me, that's my father. I mean, so loving and careful.
Mm.
Okay, let's see.
One thing I'd like just to add in
Yeah, yeah.
there, one thing
Thank
that
you.
always amazed me was this is a guy that didn't finish elementary school, didn't finish high school.
Nope.
And how did he get so smart? What was going on? If he had no education, how did he get to be that intelligent? Well, a lot of guys do that. We did get him an honorary high school diploma from Denver, from Denver's East High. And Denver is very much his town. So
Okay, so there's Dad's honorary diploma. Randy and I got that done. Anyway, go ahead, hon. Sorry.
that's all.
Oh, okay.
That was how he was so intelligent
Yeah.
and so sharp and knew so much, and yet he was uneducated. He had educated himself, really. So
Because, I think in his mind was like, I ought to get out of here, I don't want to be like this. And that brings me to the part of when he met my mother. When he met my mom, who, Carolyn Robinson, was absolutely gorgeous. And she was brought up puritanically in Nashville. And of course, he fell in love with her. Wish I looked like that. Anyway, so he used his charm, which he had, and his intellect, because she was really smart too, and talented artist, everything. Wooed her, and she fell for it, and they got married in 1948. Had my sister Kathy, and I got to tell you, I really didn't know anything about them. So I said that. I'm sorry. There's Dad on the Southern Pacific, 10 years.
Okay. Carolyn, besides being gorgeous, beautiful, was super intelligent and very sharp woman, much smarter than Jack Allen or Neil. Or Bill, and Bill too. And so Neil and Jack both were madly in love with her because she was so sharp. And this is the woman of their dreams is basically it. And they both wanted her, both needed to have her around a lot. So Carolyn Cassady is somebody you should read about and get her book and know that how important she is to this whole situation. If you don't know, when Jack came out to stay with the Cassadys, he'd come out frequently and stay in San Jose or Los Gatos, sometimes in San Francisco. In San Francisco, he was writing Visions of Cody, which led to On the Road. And he'd come out and stay, and Neil was the kind of guy, for the persons he'd love, he'd give them anything, including his wife, basically. And but he would, he'd go away working on the railroad for a week or two, and Jack would stay there. So naturally things happened, led to a romantic pizza dinner. And Jack and Carolyn got to be, lovers and very close. And
but Dad said it was all right.
Yeah, but Neil said it was all right. And a good example of that you can find in Big Sur. The book Big Sur is Jack's alcoholism and how it was mainly caused by his love for Carolyn that he couldn't have her. So,
right.
Anyway, that's our opinion. Okay.
Sticking to it.
Go ahead.
Well, let's see what else. Okay. Okay, well, like I said, when I was growing up, I knew nothing about the Beats or hippies or anything. And actually, no, I take that back. Because when I was 14 in 1964, my brother and I started smoking pot, and we kind of found out who all these people were that were friends of my father's. And by that time, Mom had said, go ahead, play with your friends, and divorced him. And so he never had a home after that, like we had in Los Gatos. He lived with the Grateful Dead in San Francisco. He lived with Ken Kesey and La Honda. Everybody would say, yes, sleep on my couch, sleep on my whatever. And they'd give him drugs and alcohol or whatever he liked. And I saw a little bit of him then from 64. He actually died 4 years later, 1968, in San Miguel, like Randy said. And the last time I saw him was January 1968, and he passed away 4 days before his 41st birthday, February 4th, 1968. So I saw him at this wonderful club called The Barn in Scotts Valley. Gosh, we could just talk forever.
Yeah.
Dad's psychologist in San Quentin, his name was Leon Tabori, and he started The Barn in Scotts Valley. What a place. Oh my gosh. Everybody played there before they were famous. Janis Joplin, Doobie Brothers, Country Joe. It was just the most amazing thing. I was 17, 18 at the time. And my boyfriend at the time was a drummer for the house band. So I was there a lot. He'd pick me up in Los Gatos. We'd get in this van. We'd go over the hill to Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley. And he'd have to play till really late. Well, the last time I saw Dad, he was there. And but he was really, really not well. He wasn't well. He was hallucinating and it wasn't good. So I took him downstairs at the barn, and we hugged and I hugged and I tried to, calm him, and he fell asleep. So I left. Then to find out, a couple of weeks later, he was dead. So I was glad. I was relieved. He's free of his demons. And there you go. What else can we say? Well, I think Randy told you what a great artist my mother is.
Right.
You want to? I don't.
We have three paintings here.
Yeah.
One of Jack Kerouac, you can see, and the other William Blake, Allen Ginsberg. It's a famous William Blake God reaching down to grab his head, I guess. And
Not as juicy.
and then that is over there. Now, I don't know. Who is that?
Jamie, do you want to hold those up to the camera so people can see?
I could.
I'll try. Like I said, we're not. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
All right, first,
What are you doing?
she said to bring it.
Oh, over there. I'll go.
Oh, I see. So sorry.
Okay.
Okay, my mother painted
Yeah,
this
that's great.
Jack, and my gosh, isn't he gorgeous?
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, and
And
the Allen Ginsberg
this is Alan.
painting. She painted him many times, but this is the one, amazing. The William Blake.
Yeah.
Okay, then,
And then of course the famous photograph,
Well,
and Jack and Neil.
Oh.
And then this is a pencil sketch she did. That we can see. She has many, many paintings
and lovers.
and lovers. This was a lover? Maybe. Yes, okay.
Yes.
That's Carolyn.
Yeah,
Yes.
she met him at the Santa Clara University.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Do you want it?
No, I can't. See,
Oh,
maybe we could talk about that.
Yeah.
Anyway, you want to show this real close? This was Jamie's birthday last January, and Stanley Mouse did a poster similar to the one he did originally for an acid test. And it was very nice, and he's still around, still drawing.
yeah,
So,
that was awesome.
now, I guess, why is Neil so famous? We should talk.
Okay.
In 1950, Alan and Jack used to discuss, and Neil would discuss writing. That's all they discussed was writing. And in 1950, Neil wrote a letter called the Joan Anderson letter, or just the Joan letter. And he sent it to Jack. Jack said this was the greatest piece of writing he had ever read. He told the Paris Review at that time that. So he said it's fabulous, better than anybody. Yeah, better than Whitman, better than whoever. So he sent it to Alan and said, Alan, get this published. This is a great piece of writing. And Alan thought so too. And so Alan mailed it to a publisher on the West Coast. And it was promptly, well, the story was, there's beat guy Gerd Stern, who's still around, still reading his poems and stuff. Supposedly it was mailed to him, and he was on his houseboat in Sausalito in San Francisco Bay. Big wind came along and blew the letter into the water, and it was lost for 60 years. And
He denied it.
he kept saying, no, 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 it wasn't there. And so in 2012, it was discovered by a woman named Jean Spinoza. Her father had a small publishing company in Berkeley called, I think it was Golden Goose Press. And she was going through his drawer, his things, and there it was in the bottom. She discovered it, and she had it verified by various people. And there's a whole bunch of shaky stuff involved in this. But anyway, it was the real letter. And we found out about it and said, hey, you can't have it. She wanted to auction it off. And we said, no, it's ours. And the Kerouac estate came out and said, no, it's ours. So it was a big court battle. And judges, how they are, is they like to be fair. So they gave a third to Spinoza, a third to the Kerouacs, and a third to the Cassadys. And it was auctioned off at Christie's, didn't hit the minimum. So it was auctioned off at another place where Emory University bought it. And it's there now at Emory University, the letter, the physical letter. Now we have the right to the words, the copyright to the words, and we're going to publish it. And we have a publisher, well, her mother's publisher in England is the guy that's handling it. So it'll be out, we hope, in the United States by next year. It's
an amazing thing.
Right.
My dad wrote this, 18 pages?
18 pages.
Single space, blah, blah.
40,000 words.
So, yeah.
And what it is it's the no punctuation, no paragraphs, just straight on writing. Now there are punctuations, of course, and there are paragraphs, but it was that was the way
Oh, okay.
it was. And that Jack and Alan both, that was what they were looking for. They were looking for, life isn't like a book. When you open it up, it has paragraphs and periods and you don't see it. Life is going around. You could say, you have a important story about a guy and he's walking down the street. And so you have to say, what's influencing him then while he was walking and talking and stuff. So basically that's what they were so excited about.
Yeah. Now, wasn't that great?
Yes.
So the John Anderson letter is coming out October 7th. And if, I'm trying to think, what I would like any of you that are interested to email me at jamicassady@gmail.com and just say what you would like. We have that, we have these great t-shirts. We'd like to get to know our audience, and I love emails. Just write to me anyway and say what you think. If you have any, questions are going to come, so that's good. Randy and I have been doing this for so long, learning more every year, loving the legacy of my parents. And you might want to go to the website that my sister's husband did, neilcassady.com.
Right.
www. And when you go there, it would be nice if you looked at the thing up here on the column that says archives. That's what Randy and I started in 2007. Those are all of our works. And they're really fascinating. I think you guys.
Right. It's Friends of Neil that nobody's ever heard of, or if you have, we like Al Hinkle, who was Ed Dunkel and On the Road. We spent a lot of time with him in Watsonville down at the train station. It was Al that got Jack, Alan, and Neil jobs on the railroad. Jack didn't like the job. It was too scary. He had to jump on a moving train. He didn't like it, so he didn't last very long. Alan was given because he was Jewish, and this being, United States of America, he was should only be doing books, and so that's what they had him do, and he didn't like that either. So neither of them lasted really long on the railroad, but Neil did. Neil worked for 10 years, never missed a day. He was so good at his job as a conductor that in 1952, when Eisenhower was coming through on his, just like now, running for president, they picked Neil to be his conductor on his car. And Al has a short story about Ike and Neil and how they met and they talked, and that's really interesting. And we have that. We have all kinds of stuff. So we'd like to share it with everybody.
If you have any questions about anything or ideas or just saying like, well, wait, what happened then or anything, we'd love to, answer. So let's see, what else can we say? Oh, t-shirts?
Oh, we got t-shirts.
You know what, you guys, we have things to sell. And I think you'd love them. I'll give you a little quick thing about each one. Dad was a huge Grateful Dead person. He was at all the acid tests with Ken Kesey, and he lived with the Grateful Dead in San Francisco. So, Randy, this is the Steely, the skull thing with the tie-dye. And I love that picture of Dad. He's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's 10, right?
Right.
10.
So.
Okay. Then these Randy put together. We have the orange tie-dye, and on the back, he put quotes from my father. This one says, "Sometimes I sits and thinks. Other times I sits and drinks. But mostly I just sits." So that's kind of a cool thing to have. Randy also put together these baseball shirts. Oh, so many colors. You've got neon yellow, blue, pink. On the front is that, and that's about the Joan Anderson letter. On the back is a picture of my mom and dad when they got married in San Francisco. Santa Cruz, that's where we live, Santa Cruz County. Yeah. And the last one is a green tie-dye he made. We are actually fourth dimensional beings in a third dimensional body inhabiting a second dimensional world.
And then, of course, the books. Most important, probably Carolyn's book. There it is. Off the Road. This is the true story. It starts the day Carolyn met him, and it ends there when JB, who was Neil's girlfriend at the time, called, and they had to discuss where to send the ashes. And that's the last chapter. So everything in between is what went on at the time. And it's very much, you'll find that the myths are upheld. And
but she gives a good background on the home life, you know.
Yeah.
She basically raised us 3 kids single-handedly. Well, and like I said, I didn't know anything about this counterculture family I was in. So it's a good background check, especially from a woman, you know. Most of the beat women weren't, you know, recognized as much as the men. Also, we have this awesome movie, documentary, that the public station, what's it called, public station in Denver put together. Neil Cassady, the Denver years. It shows how he grew up in Denver, the places he went, 5 Points, all the cool things in Denver. The Cassady family loved it, so it's a good thing to see. Okay. Cool.
So would you like to, we have a few questions. Would you like to answer
Okay.
questions?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Both of us here. Don't move in.
So we have a question from Dawn Janke. And she
Oh,
says,
Dawn,
Dr. Don?
Dr. Dawn.
Yes.
and it says, Jamie, tell us the significance of the Joan Anderson letter and why it might be part of Banned Books Week.
Of course, we were going to say that. Thank you, Dawn. I got to tell you, the Joan Anderson letter, like Randy said, Dad wrote in 1950, big, huge letter, single-spaced. Jack and Alan knew it had to be published, and it got lost. But now we have it. And I got to tell you, you know, Hal was banned 54 with City Lights, and the judge said, no, it's okay, it shouldn't be banned. But I got to tell you, if anybody had read this letter in 1950 when it was written, bando.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been the first banned book in City Lights history, whatever.
If we want to say, it was written in spontaneous stream of consciousness. I guess that's the proper way to say it.
Yeah.
And like Jack said, it was spontaneous boprosity, whatever that means.
Yeah.
And so Jack was so influenced by it, he changed his form of writing. Also, Alan was influenced by it. And Hal is kind of written in that term.
Oh, that's interesting.
And that was in 1950, when Jack got it in 1950. And if you get it, you'll find things in it that Neil did, like he liked to play with words. It was there. A lot of no punctuation paragraphs, and there's no punctuation on purpose. It's not a matter of he knew where to put periods and commas and semicolons and everything else, but it didn't go with the way he was writing. And and so other influences, of course, is Bob Dylan, and Hunter S. Thompson is what they call new journalism. New journalism is fictionalized facts.
Yeah.
And so you get like Hunter Thompson, if you know that, or Kerouac in all his books, you can see what this fictionalized fiction is.
Blah, blah, blah.
Fictionalized fact.
Fictionalized fiction.
Yeah.
So, did that answer your question, Dawn?
No.
I don't think so.
No. Anyway, I recently I just found in the book As Ever, which is a collection of Alan and Neil's letters back and forth, that Neil said he didn't want to write like that anymore. It was too boring for him, and he just didn't like spending the time. His mind was doing so much and going so far and acting so much at once that it was just boring to sit down and write and concentrate.
Yeah.
He just couldn't do it. And yet
amphetamines, he did this huge letter. So yeah, but he'd much rather live, right? Run around and live, and then sit down and write later.
Right.
Dawn, is that a good answer?
So.
Okay. So would you like another question?
Of course.
Okay. So the next question is from Chris Maher. And it says, glad to see the Joan Anderson letter is finally being published and to get my copy. How do you feel about how that was resolved? Do you think there will be new attention to Neil as a result?
Oh my gosh. People have been dying to get this published. I get letters constantly. When can I buy the book? When can I read this thing? And Emory University did kind of a bad thing when they first bought the letter, the actual piece of paper, but we owned the words, and they were selling it online for $10. And I wrote to them, this is what, 4 years ago. I said, hey, you guys, you know, this is ours and we need to publish it. So we're still, you know.
That's the biggest problem we run into, is that not too many people know that Neil had a family. Not too many people know who Carolyn Cassady is.
Yeah.
Not too many people know, like the Doobie Brothers and the Grateful Dead, that while Neil was hanging out with them, they were on welfare. And Carolyn had to hold down 3 jobs.
The Cassadys were on welfare.
And eat welfare food, you know, those big chunks of cheese and the blue milk and all that stuff. And that's a thing that I've been fighting the most in, is to make, to stop all that, to quit stealing from the Cassadys. John had his house foreclosed on him. Carolyn constantly struggled for money through her whole life. And if she hadn't sold a couple books to make movies, she would have probably not been very happy with her life. But she luckily had made some money from selling books and making into movies that she was able to move to England and live the life that she would like. I'll bet a little not as nice as she wanted it to be, but she was pretty famous at the time. She became really famous after Jack and Neil both died, and it dawned on people who she was, and that if they wanted to know about those people, they should talk to her. And so she became pretty famous in that. And everybody were asking the same questions, so she wrote the book Off the Road so that people would stop asking her questions, but it didn't stop. So
she kept saying when she'd write to us, she'd go, "Oh my God, I'm going to Leeds, to the University of Bristol or something to talk about the book. Why can't they buy the book?" You know, she died when she was 90 and she had lived in England for 30 years. She took a leap of faith when she was 60 and moved there for the you know, the theater, that was her thing. Met a lot of famous people, the land. And, but yeah, she says, well, that's my mission in life, is to keep talking about Neil and Jack and Hal. But anyway, her book explains all that, and it's really good.
Okay, so we have another question. It says, "Hi Jamie, I'm watching from Australia." And this is from Lila. And it says, "Thank you for this amazing presentation. Did your father ever sit and have conversations about life with you? Thank you."
About life?
Yeah.
Well, he never talked to me about being a woman or maturity, but I got to tell you, all he talked about was life. So smart. And he would, I mean, oh, well, just like I showed you with that t-shirt, he would stand up on our little brick fireplace in Los Gatos and just talk. And it was just fascinating. Also, I don't think most people know that my sister and brother and I went to Christian Science Sunday School in Los Gatos when we were 5, 6, 7, something like that. Then, boom, they stopped that, but we had gotten the education about the Bible, you know, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and we knew the Bible really well. But after that, every Sunday, we'd be all on the floor in the Los Gatos living room, coloring or something to keep us sitting there. And Mom and Dad would tell us all about Edgar Cayce and reincarnation and plants that are alive and feel pain and, you know, bonsais and, you know, just the most amazing philosophy for young children. And boom, I took it all in. I still believe everything they taught me. We've had many, many past life tapes. And, you know, well, I still have them.
I think one of the big things that most people don't know, and they should, because it's fairly obvious in the literature, that Kerouac, Ginsberg, and Cassady were very spiritual people.
Yeah.
Alan, of course, with the Buddhism, Dharma Bums is where Kerouac got involved with Gary Snyder in Zen Buddhism, and he fell out of that because he was a good Catholic boy, and that's really what permeates and strikes Neil and Jack's life. Their whole life is they were good Catholic boys. In the end, Kerouac moved back with his mother to Florida, and that's where he died, drank himself to death with his mom, and which is his Catholic upbringing that did that. Neil was an altar boy at Denver. One of his closest friends at that time was the Reverend Harley Schmidt, who was head of that church. And many years after Neil's death, Carolyn communicated with him back and forth. And so Neil had made a big impression on Harley. He thought he was this great guy too. So there's all the evil and bad things you think about these guys taking drugs and the sex and the rock and roll and all that stuff. They were just good Catholic boys and having a good time. So they ended up just being straight guys.
Well, here's my take, not mine, my mother's. If you're a good Catholic boy, women are either whores or Madonnas. So Jack loved his mother and lived with her forever. And another thing was, if you're a Catholic and if dad did something wrong, like steal a car, he could go to confession and say, oh my gosh, and the priest would say, okay, 2 Hail Marys, bye-bye. Yay! So dad was absolved, he could go out and do it again. Now, this is my mom's interpretation of the trouble these poor Catholic boys had to go through in life. And I really think it affected Dad and Jack very much. And who knows if they were abused, but
yeah. So anyway,
okay.
So let's see. Okay, we have another question.
Okay.
What was Carolyn's relationship with Luanne Henderson and Diane Hansen?
Oh my.
Diana Hansen, sorry.
That's okay. Okay.
Well,
this is the.
Let me say one thing.
He's first.
When Neil married Carolyn, he was already married to Diane, if you don't know that.
Okay. All right. And he was
Like
probably still. Okay. Luanne was his first wife. They got married. And when he met Mom, he tried to get the marriage annulled, which, you know, annulled is no word in my dad's history. So a lot of back and forth, back and forth. Luanne's mom, she was 16, had to approve the annulment. So there's all these letters back and forth, back and forth. Finally he goes, okay, Carolyn, we can get married. So they got married in 1948. I was born in 1950. When I was born, Mom had kicked him out of the house, and he went to New York and met a model, Diane Hansen. And so he married her, bigamously. And she had a son almost the same day that I was born, January 26, 1950. His name was Kurt Hansen, and we've communicated. He sadly passed away, but his son, Kurt Hansen Jr., has a coffee shop in San Jose, and we went over and met him and, you know, talked and stuff. But the letters in Mom's book from Diana just, oh, she got so mad. Of course, she's home with a toddler and a newborn, and this woman is saying, oh, Neil just loves the baby and all that stuff. It's a huge chapter in her life, and that's who Diane Hansen is. You have to read the book.
Okay, and that was from Alan. I forgot to mention. Okay, so the next question is, Neil seemed to have a great sense of humor. Can you remember any TV shows he liked to watch or his favorite movies of the time?
Well,
And this is from Patrick.
Okay, I'll just start with my remembrances. He'd come home from work and he'd sit down and watch TV, and we had to, oh, he liked Paul Coates. It was like a early talk show way back in the 60s.
Local.
Yeah, local. So we'd sit down and he'd watch Paul Coates on the TV, and we'd have to bring him for his lunch, you know, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces of toasted bread and soup. It had to be so hot that I couldn't even touch it.
That's not
It was weird.
the other. If you read, especially in the Joan Anderson letter, there's a little. He was really big on W.C. Fields. There was a lot of that. So that's in some in the JAL, Kerouac too, for obvious reasons, I guess. He was W.C. Fields was a classic. So humor.
Oh yeah. Well, you know what? He was humorous. He was a showman. He was trying to impress us kids, and do tricks. I mean, he would do the trick with the thumb, and he'd jump through his feet, and he'd play ball, and he was a big kid with us kids, really. And happy. I mean, he always seemed happy. I never saw any conflict, which looking back and reading Mom's book, I'm like, God, we were clueless, But my impression of him is very humorous, very funny. Of course, he was so smart. He,
I was going to say one thing that happened to always happened to Neil. He had the ability to carry on more than one conversation at a time. It was like those chess masters who go in and play 10, 12 chess games at one time. That was Neil. He could carry on one conversation with 3 people on 3 different subjects while never stopping to rest or think, it would seem. He would just start talking about whatever the first question was, and then he would continue into the second person and into the third person, and then tie them all together at the bottom some way. And you'll find, as if you look through about Neil, that there's constantly that thing where he constantly spoke to more than one person at a time. He would talk 2 or 3 people at a time and answer their questions. So that's part of the mythology of Neil. Also his driving ability, of course, was a huge myth. Driving from Ensenada to the border without using his brakes, driving down Lombard Street in San Francisco backwards without using his brakes. Jerry Garcia has a story where he's riding with him in the car, and he is so scared that he didn't ever want to ride with Neil again. Same Bob Weir, same kind of stories. So the driving, plus in On the Road, there's the big story where he goes around a semi on a bridge with somebody coming the other way in the other lane. He made it. So.
They say he had this sixth sense that he could see where the car coming was, and he never got in a wreck. Never. Not that I know of. So.
And also, of course, is he had stolen 500 cars by the time he was 18. He's the one that did that, who made that up. That's actually in the first third. You can read about it. He talks about it in there. And Carolyn always said he never stole them. He just borrowed them. He'd get in it, go where he had to go, and leave the car there. And wouldn't take it back. So.
But he had to go to reform school many times. So anyway, more questions?
Yes. This is from Bill, and it says he is in North Carolina State University continuing ed class, and they are reading On the Road, and they talked about it today. Let's see. How close is Dean to Neil? What Neil, or was Neil as manic as in the book's character?
I got it. Okay, great question. Well, Jack wrote this book. First, he started at our house in San Francisco, His book was called Visions of Cody, and Cody was my dad's name. Then he got the Joan Anderson letter and kind of switched everything around and wrote On the Road. Well, when he wrote On the Road, he used all of our names, Jamie, John, Carolyn. He went to the publishers to publish it, and they said, oh, we can't use real names. They're going to sue us. So that's why Dean Moriarty, Cody Pomeroy, and all those names for my dad, Jack made up. I mean, my name's Gabby in a book, and another name I can't remember. Well, Jack was the observer. Dad was the active, like that. And Jack would sit there with his little notebook and observe Dad, being himself. So I got to say, the second time I read On the Road, like 5 years ago, I thought my dad was a jerk. He left Jack, he did this, oh my God. I can see why Mom was, anyway. But yeah, don't you think, huh? Dean and Neil?
Yeah, I think Al Hinkle used to say, said that Neil always had somewhere to go. I mean, they would go somewhere, and when they got there, Neil had somewhere else to go.
Right.
So yes, he was like that all the time. He couldn't hold still. Things were always going on. When he was with the pranksters, he complained a lot that he acted like a trained bear. He had to do what they wanted him to do, be what they wanted him to be. And so he was he was able to do that to a lot of people at the same time. So he was real active, hyper, and of course taking speed and Benzedrine, that didn't help.
And LSD. Also, we learned recently, I mean, we had a thing in San Luis Obispo. Dad was bisexual, but that wasn't what he was. He was an opportunist. And if he needed something or wanted someone for some reason, he was bisexual. So
yeah, he did whatever he had to do. He was brought up in the slums. His dad was hardly ever around. And so his dad was an alcoholic big time. Yeah. And so Neil did whatever he had to do. He was a huge con man. I just read that thing where Jack says that I knew Neil was a con man. He was conning me, but I also knew that he knew that I knew he was a con man.
Right.
So
that's why
they got along pretty well, because they both knew where they were going.
Well, and like I said, the observer and the writer, and then Dad is the spark and the, running around and making things happen. That was perfect for Jack. And so that's a huge part of the history of those two.
Okay. Okay, so we have another question from Mexico, from Odine, and they were wondering, are you planning to distribute this book in Latin America? We are so excited to hear. We're so excited here to read it. All the love.
Yeah,
of course. The publisher that did my mom's book in England. It's Asia, Europe, South America. Yeah, there it goes. It's out. And then we just said okay for him to do a California type thing. So yeah, yes, it should be. Yeah,
we do. Jamie does get emails from South America, mostly from Brazil.
Brazil, yeah.
And one from Argentina, and we just got a couple things from Australia. So yes, we want to get it out to the world. A lot. Now the big question, right now there's a question on whether we go to bookstores or schools and colleges, make it available at colleges only for studying.
Nah,
I don't know.
we'll do everything.
We do everything, right?
Everybody has been waiting for this since 2012 when it was first found. And Jasmine, like Randy said, was going to auction it off without telling the Cassadys. So Randy was reading the San Francisco Chronicle, and it said this was being auctioned, and huge years and years of legal. But I think now everybody will be able to read it and enjoy it. And it would have been a banned book before Hal if it had come out in 1950 when Dad wrote it.
Yeah,
That's our banned
it's
book.
definitely X-rated.
Yeah.
And but that's not the
No,
reason to read it. The reason to read it is because of the style of writing that Neil invented at the time, I
Right.
guess, and influenced Kerouac and so many other people. And because the letter was lost so long, that's why nobody knows the importance of it.
Mhm.
So yes, if you can't find it, say, get a hold of, write Jami at jamicassady.com, gmail.com, and we'll do what we can to get it to you one way or the other.
Yeah.
So we should have some ourselves in about another couple weeks.
Yes.
So
Yeah. So
hopefully, it's supposed to be October the 7th, published in Europe and available throughout the world, supposedly.
yeah.
Distribution. Putting out a book is a hell of a thing. It's hard.
It's
Anyway, we want to get distribution. We know that South America is very big on it, and nobody ever seems to go there and talk about it. And so, well, we're going to do the best we can.
Yeah.
Okay, great. It sounds very, very exciting. I think
Good.
we're all really looking forward to it.
Good.
So we have another question. What is your fondest memory of your father?
Oh boy. couple hundred. But I always tell this story. He was a big kid, he'd do magic tricks. He'd open our eyes to things that, were new to us and made us feel loved and have fun. A couple of things. I remember him sitting in our room in Los Gatos in the dining room, and he was he was such a pacifist. So even in our home, we were living there, must have been 6 or something, and I guess I'd done something wrong, and Mom picked the paddle off the fridge, and she grabbed my hand and she was trying to spank me for something I did. And I just kept running around in a circle and she couldn't get me. And there's Dad in the corner laughing his head off. Well, I don't know what happened to Mom later, but I always remember him just being like, oh my gosh. Another great memory is that we had this purple Willys Jeep that we had taken to Big Sur when Jack wrote Big Sur. And I took ballet in Los Gatos, like, I don't know, every other night or twice a week. And he picked me up from his job. And it was only like, what, mile or 2 maybe from our house to the ballet studio. And it was a little downhill, not too much. And he would go the whole way without his brakes. Whoopee, and we'd be yelling and stuff. I don't even remember if there was a stoplight back then. There is now. And then he'd go around the corner and screech up to the ballet studio. And there's all these, women with their children. I was so proud. Ooh, I loved it. I'm an Aquarius. And when he pulled in there with the Jeep and let me off, I go, bye, Dad. I don't know. I really love that part. Okay,
Okay. Would you want to try one more question?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. This is from Alan, and it says, one thing I love about Dean and On the Road was Dean's love for the marginalized people, such as midgets, people with disabilities, etc. Dean had compassion for them. Did you experience that with your father?
Like everybody, yes.
Well, at that age and everything, I mean, when he died, I was 18 and I hadn't seen him for 4 years. So as a youngster, but that never even came into my being. I mean, there was nothing like that at my house. So I really can't answer that. But I know Dad, man, he treated everybody the same. And that's how I grew up, big pacifist, like I said. I'm sorry, I'm not answering that correctly. What do you think, hon?
Well, all the beats we find on the whole were pretty much not prejudiced about anybody or anything, though, of course, the times homosexuality was a big thing. And I mean, Alan Ginsberg's parents threw him into an insane asylum because he was homosexual. And there were things like that going on. But the Beats themselves, they didn't care that Alan was a homosexual. They just got along as friends. And because of that, they grew very close and tight. Now, Alan, on the other hand, he really fell in love with Neil. So that was it. But even the women I found were pretty much respected and listened to. In On the Road, I mean, Helen Hinkle yells at Neil for treating Carolyn so badly, and Neil just feels horrible and stuff. He starts to cry, and he's not. So they really respected women. And though I know in the 40s and early 50s, hard to imagine that there was that sort of thing going on, but it happened. So anyway.
Okay, well, that looks like that is our last question. So I would just like to thank you very much, Jami. And and thank you so much for coming to give this presentation for us.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Randy, too, for your insights as well.
Sure.
And this was really the highlight, I think, of our week. So, we were all looking forward to this very much. And so, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we go?
I need to come next year in person.
Oh, please do. Please do. We'll start planning now.
Okay.
There is so much about Neil and Jack and Alan and Jami and I and Carolyn. We're all trying to do it. So I'm sure that maybe some of the answers aren't what you think they are, that's probably true. There isn't anything. So I would say, if you have a question or you disagree with anything we say, write to Jami at Jami Cassady. Okay? Email.com. And
okay. And if you have any questions for us at the library, you can contact me as well. My email is Duncan, DUNCANL, at cclsys.org. And my name is Larissa Duncan. I'm the reference librarian there.
Okay.
So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Larissa?
Yes.
I tried to write you a couple times. Ashley had to forward. I don't really have your new email. Just email me it and I can get you back. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jami, and thank you everyone for attending.
Yes,
And,
thank you.
Make sure to celebrate Band Books Week wherever you are.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, stay
Hope
well.
Luanne was there.
Thank
Stay
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.